Hey y'all, of course, welcome back to the Self-Care Revolution podcast, okay? I'm your host, Demita, your TikTok accountability partner and self-care bestie, okay? If you're not following me on TikTok, you need to follow me at by Demita Joe, all right? And every week, we come together to talk about the real side of self-care, right? Not that treat yourself side. I'm talking about the daily habits that keep you steady, the daily habits that get you day to day, all right, that keep you focused and ready for whatever life throws your way. Now, we're in the last stretch of the year. Y'all know I'm always talking about how many days we have left in the year at the end of every year because I don't want y'all to wait for New Year's resolutions. You could do something now. You could start doing something right now, today, okay? And see results by the end of the year. We got a little bit over 2 months, okay? So I want you to walk into the new year feeling prepared and not panicked. And the best way to do that is we're going to focus on the basics. All right. So today we're talking about mental self care, how to get your mind right so the rest of your life can follow. Now, last week we talked about physical self care and how that looked. And this week we're going to focus on mental. All right. But before we get started, I want to start out with our weekly reminder. Okay. Your thoughts are not always the truth. Just because you think it don't mean it's true. All right. That's what this week's reminder is. This week's reminder is so simple but powerful, okay? Because your thoughts are not always true. Your mind will tell you things based on fear, okay? Or based on whatever happened in the past, or based on whatever you think happened in the past. Because sometimes we don't even remember stuff 100% of how it happened, all right? But it could also be based on exhaustion. All right. And if you never slow down to check in and you're one of those people that kind of never address your mental, those thoughts start driving the car. All right. Mental self care is about you taking control of the wheel. Okay. That's what it's all about. You have to check in with yourself daily. So we're going to start off with a self care roll call. All right. Y'all know what it is. Did you drink water today? Now you can answer these questions in the comments, or you could just keep it to yourself. But answer these questions. Did you drink water today? All right. Did you eat something that came from the earth and not a box? All right. Something with color. Okay. Did you move your body even if it was just a stretch? And did you pause to pray or breathe or check in with yourself before you start checking in with the world? Now, these might sound real basic and real small, and you might think, oh, who forgets to do these things? But every one of them affects your mental clarity, and people forget to check on these things every day. All right. Dehydration could give you brain fog. Junk food doesn't give you no real energy and it messes with your focus. No movement means low energy and you're sitting there waiting on motivation. All right. It's all connected. It's all connected. You can't, you can't do anything well without addressing these things. All right. You got to go back to the foundation. Even a professional athlete, if he needs to sharpen his skill, is going to spend some time on the fundamentals. All right, remember that. Now, what is self care, mental self care for real? All right, that is something that we should talk about because self care is a word that's thrown around a lot and everybody has a different definition. All right, so let's clear this up. Mental self care is not just about journaling in a pretty notebook or meditating for 20 minutes a day. It's the daily practice of creating a space for you in your head. All right, however that looks for you, because it's not going to look the same for everybody. It's just basically about realizing what's on your mind, noticing it, and deciding what deserves to stay and letting go of what has no business being there. All right, because we spend a lot of time spiraling on negative thoughts that may never even happen. You know what I'm saying? So you need to think about your brain like a closet, okay? If you never cleaned out your closet, which I have to clean out my closet today, but if you never cleaned out your closet, you end up with like random junk stuffed everywhere. And when you actually need something, you can't find it. You know you have it, but you can't find it. All right. Mental self care is cleaning out that closet. I can't talk this morning. Mental self care, what is cleaning out that closet? All right. It's like setting some boundaries, all right? It's like writing things down, okay? uh it's like choosing peace over chaos. Okay. Mental self-care is cleaning out that closet, but you're gonna do it a little bit every day, because you can't not do it every day. All right, that's the whole point that I want to drive home. You can't put this on the back burner. All right. Now, um let's talk about some real life consequences, like how it looks when we skip these things. All right, thinking that, oh, if I just jump out of bed and just get ready for work and just head to work and not worry about myself, like it's gonna make it all better. No, work, like it's gonna not affect you. No, we're gonna talk about some real life consequences of neglecting yourself, all right, and your self-care. Because the truth is, when we skip the mental self-care, you feel it, all right, that you probably overthinking. That's that mental clutter. All right, you probably, you might be one of those people that snap at people for no reason. If so, that is like you're emotionally overloaded from unprocessed thoughts, things that are just in your head and you have not gotten them out. Okay. Now, if you're a person who feels stuck or unmotivated, that's your mind being too crowded to focus. Like you're just stuck on the thinking part of what you need to do, but you never move because you're waiting for that motivation. And I hate to tell you this, but motivation is something that you shouldn't wait for, because motivation comes after the action. All right. But the point is, we start thinking something's wrong with us when really we just haven't stopped long enough to pay attention to us and clear out the mental mess. Okay. So, um, now, when I do the daily five, all right, that is just a simple way to touch on the four foundational self care pillars without having to think about it. All right. They support, but let's talk about how they support you mentally though, because they have like I said, they touch every four, shoot, not every four, they touch the four pillars of self-care, which is mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, right? But you don't want to walk around thinking about that every day, so I just made it into daily five. And if you focus on these five things, then you should touch those four pillars every day. All right. So this is where they come in at, because it's not, like I said, just about physical habits. Water improves your brain function. We need water. Okay. Real food has a lot to do with your mood, and the energy that you're going to have. All right. Rest also helps your thoughts settle. So people who like stay up all night, like you've never given your brain a chance to let your thoughts even settle. All right. Movement is another one that people skip. Like they think they want to start working out, but they never start working out, and they don't realize that they're not doing anything because they're thinking about it so hard. Movement actually releases stress and boosts your creativity. So if you just got up and walked or got up and stretched, eventually you're going to want to add something onto that, and you got to start somewhere, right? So you can't let yourself get stuck in a mental loop of, I like to call it, standing on the sidelines watching everybody else lose weight, watching everybody else, um, hit their goals and stuff, because you're just stuck mentally just thinking about it. Okay. We can't do that. Prayer and reflection also brings a perspective, and it brings peace. That is also going to help with mental clarity. Each one of those is a mental tool that is disguised as a physical habit. Okay. That's why we don't skip them. We can't skip them. We can't skip them. All right. So if you just remember the daily five, you know, hydrate, nourish, rest, prayer and reflect, and movement, everything else should fall into place, because those things are going to help you do your best at wherever you're taking your body to. Okay. So now, for people who need like practical examples, okay, you're not convinced, you want to make it real. All right, let me give you an example of something. Okay, let's see. So, how many times have you made a bad decision simply because you were tired or hungry? Maybe you got into an accident, maybe you spilled something, things like that. That's not a personality flaw, that's biology, right? Or maybe you've been trying to figure out a solution to a problem, and it finally comes to you after you take a walk, or stop and pause and drink some water, or just kind of, relax and breathe and reflect, right? That's not magic. That's what happens when your mind has space to think. and it might sound so cliche, but when you prioritize mental self care, you're not just taking care of yourself. You're actually setting yourself up to handle work stress a little bit better. You're setting yourself up to communicate a lot more clearly, okay? You're setting yourself up to make smarter choices. And you're setting yourself up to respond to life instead of reacting to it. Like, get out of reaction mode, okay? Reaction mode is like right next to survival mode, and we don't need to do that. All right. So, y'all know I like to come with a challenge every week, a reset challenge every week. And so this week is no different. The challenge that I want to present to you this week is the one step, right? I want you to pick one thing that clears your mental space for you this week. Maybe it's going to be journaling for 5 minutes, getting stuff out of your head. Or maybe it's deleting apps that's draining your peace. I actually need to do that. Or maybe it's just deciding to stop checking your email before breakfast, okay? Listen, uh, that is a big one. And if you're ready to track your progress and you kind of have a problem including self care daily, go grab the free self care tracker at selfcaremattersdaily.com. All right, it's a one-page tracker that helps you with your daily self care, right? It has a bunch of different self care actions on there. It has space for you to write down what you ate, how you're feeling, and things like that, okay? Because sometimes you just need to get it out of your head. And sometimes you just need to create some progress so that you can see what you've been doing. All right. When your mind is clear, then your life gets steady. And it has nothing to do with, the goals that you set at work. Because if you don't hit your self care goals, then you will not be able to show up for anything that you planned at work, any trips that you plan to travel for, anything like that. All right. So, get in the comments below. Let me know if this episode resonated with you. If you are a person who feels like you don't know what self care is, I'm telling you, if you address these 4 self care pillars, everything else seems to fall into place. All right. So just remember the daily 5. And I'll see you guys next week in the next episode where we're going to be talking about spiritual self care. All right. So this whole month, we're breaking down the 4 pillars of self care. Last week was physical self care. This week is mental. All right. Get in the comments below. I want to hear from y'all. All right. Bye.